Bonjour. Hello.
Bonjour.
It was very unfortunate that I got sick when we were having this grandiose, fun, romantic trip. But
Absolutely.
I was also lucky that whatever I had, 3 days later, I was 99% recovered. So I was really, really fortunate. But we still decided to take a rest day, take it easy so that we can have the very last leg of the trip not being like feeling awful. So we just spent a day in a park, Parc de la Planchette.
Even though I didn't get sick on this trip, I needed a break.
And we did some readings. I even did some sketchings. I always love to see people enjoy their time and taking it slow. It reminded us while we were here, we're taking a break. I always love to see like public spaces like parks and gardens and like playgrounds and how people use them. It just always gives a smile on my face. So the next day we went to Pompidou and I was so glad. I'm feeling so much better and I feel like I can finally enjoy myself again. So this is actually my second time went to Pompidou, and Pompidou is like the cultural destination in almost Europe, not just in Paris, because it is so huge. It houses a library and a museum and also a center for music and acoustic research. So it is really huge. So I'm glad that we took our time, spent almost entire day there. Just an architect, I was nerded out again because this is one of those buildings that looking very, very unique, because most of the time you see a building has a skin, a facade, and seeing everything kind of concealing inside, like mechanical system, electrical system and whatnot. But with this building, everything is inside out. So when you approach the building from the plaza, you see like color-coded yellow, like red, super bright colors, like color-coding all the mechanical system, electrical conduits, like all of those. To me, it's like a metaphor saying all of things inside of the building is not just like ivory tower. It's something that keeping away from the public, and the museums, the library, and also the musical, like acoustic research should be open to the public and should like spark like curiosity and inspire people to explore. So I think for that reason, I just feel the sense of like being like intrigued, encouraged, and inspired. And I just want to explore more with that building.
I was kind of a kid in a candy store because one of my favorite artists, Vasily Kandinsky, he has a unique way of just creating a piece of art that evokes emotions. And it's just like circles and lines for the most part. During the pandemic, we actually passed the time by putting a puzzle together of one of Kandinsky's paintings. So we grabbed some dinner, and then right after dinner, we saw this giant pro-Ukraine protest march. And it just reminded me like the populace there is very strong and very outspoken about their political beliefs. Yeah, it was just crazy seeing something like that in another part of the world. But after that, we had plans to go to the Paris Philharmonic. Whenever we're walking up, it's gorgeous. It looks like it's made of sequins.
I was just so floored to see it for the first time. And I think it's almost like as iconic as like Disney Concert Hall in Los Angeles, because it just looks so fluid. And this one looks shiny in a different way, like sequins, like a dress.
One odd thing though, before we actually entered the concert hall, and this is just, I guess, a little quirk about Paris. You have a concert hall, and right next to it is a very tiny goat farm.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. But when I saw it, I was like, this is odd.
The main piece was called Taranghelia.
That night went as a blur. We thought like usually we went to a concert, it's like an hour and a half and 2 hours, and that's it, especially classical music.
Yeah.
But this one went on and on and on and on.
Every time there was a movement, they stopped. Clapping. It was like, oh, okay, this is the end. Boom! boom, then it's just starting up again. It's like, oh my God.
Most marathon-like concert that we've ever been to.
Yeah.
So following that super long concert night, and we were just like, okay, what we're gonna do? We're gonna go to Musée d'Orsay because everybody has been raving about this museum. I'm so excited to see it for the first time.
Oh yeah.
But I woke up to this email from French Bee saying our flight is canceled. So you know how panicked I was because it was only 2 days before we were about to leave for Los Angeles, but the flight was canceled. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I started to kind of trying to text them on the customer service and never got a response. You know what? Let's just go back to the airport. Thank goodness we can fly to San Francisco because that flight on the same day was not canceled yet. I'd rather being able to fly back to the United States and figure out a way to fly from San Francisco to Los Angeles rather than being stranded here. But we later found out it's not necessarily French Bee's fault. Apparently, there are a lot of like strikes going on like in Europe in general. That morning, like we were in complete panic mode. But anyway, we figured it out and then when we back and I was like, okay, so we went to the museum in the afternoon.
Yeah, Musée d'Orsay.
Musée d'Orsay. So, Musée d'Orsay, everybody has been raving about it and they're not wrong. So, it's actually one of the most successful like example of adaptive reuse.
Okay.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah, basically, no, I don't.
Well, so it's usually like a very economic and sustainable way to turn into an old building that no longer in use into something completely different without having to taking out, destroy, and demolish everything. So Musée d'Orsay used to be a train station. That explains
that
why.
makes sense.
Well, yeah, I didn't know that until I noticed like the gigantic clocks are everywhere. I was like, it must be a train stations before. Otherwise, why would you have so many gigantic clocks everywhere?
Sure.
So it is actually true. Once it's like no longer in use, and they turn into a museum, which is fantastic.
I would say Musée d'Orsay is one of the best museums I've ever been to. The layout of this other galleries in the space of a train station, it was such a unique experience. You'll never find it anywhere else in the world. The quality of all of the work there just floored me from so many different time periods, so many different movements.
So not only Musée d'Orsay had a lot of classical pieces, but we were so surprised to see American artist Kehinde Wiley's work there. And it was actually right in the center of the museum. And it was quite shocking because not only there are paintings, but also huge sculptures. I think he was known for the Obama portraits and a lot of like a very super realistic. That's what we have seen in the past, but this is actually the very first time we're seeing all the sculptures. Like those pieces are just fit right in. Last night we were in Paris and we are celebrating with wine.
So unfortunately, the next day was our last day in Paris. We finally went to this great restaurant really close to our Airbnb called Emile. I remember they had this really cute bathroom, and just the whole layout of the cafe was just, it's very Amelie-esque. Yeah. And I got basically the equivalent of like a tomahawk steak that would probably run you around $100 here in LA. And my whole meal, not just the steak, but everything else, I think was like 20 euros.
The service great, food is great, and we really liked it. I think if we ever go back to Paris, I do want to stay in the same neighborhood, Levallois-Perret, and then still going to MU if it's still there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really love that neighborhood. On this trip, I also did a little bit of shopping, taking advantage of this euro dollar, like almost 1-to-1 situation, and got some jacket. I got a jacket from Saison, and I also got this sneakers and beige. I got some purse from Pauline. It's one of my favorite French designer brand. It's not necessarily like a luxury brand, but I think their quality and design is really amazing.
Before we boarded on our flight, of course this would happen in Paris, there's a person playing the piano near our gate. She's playing the soundtrack to Amelie.
Yeah, it was cool. I think every airport should have a piano so that people can play and enjoy that kind of music and feeling de-stressed. One more thing, like I feel like I want to sort of debunk. People kept saying like, oh, French are really rude, like they're always like a not great service, but that's not the case on our trip at all. Like we spend entire 2 weeks there, and every time we go to places, restaurant, cafe, museum, everybody we have like been conversing with, or they're just super, super nice.
Yeah, if you can travel anywhere for a minimum of 10 days, that's going to be the best experience for you. You need to make sure you have enough time so you can be flexible. So if you wanted to take a rest day, or if you wanted to decide to go hiking in Normandy or any other wacky things you just discover on your trip, that's what is one of the best things about travel. And you get to embed yourself into the culture in a completely different societal environment.
And I do like the fact that we spend enough time there so that we see a little bit of everything instead of just going to museums and doing touristy stuff. So we get to experience. Yeah. So that's wonderful.
Once you get away from all those touristy spots, then you start to realize, oh, this is what it might be like to live in this setting. And it helps frame a better perspective of how these people actually live. It helps you to break away from stereotypes that you might have been taught as a kid. That's it for the Paris trip. There's gonna be a lot more coming, and we hope you can join us on our next adventure.
Au revoir. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup.